Hi and welcome to the Faxon blog and podcast. Hi, and welcome to episode 57 of the Faxon blog and podcast. We're excited you're here to join us. And, Emily has been doing a lot of work on scheduling these guests. So it's been great. And, as you get close to 60 shows in, having some new blood in the show is always good. So, Emily, if you wouldn't mind introducing who our guest is this week.
I would love to. So this week we have, I feel like I say this every week, another one of my favorite people in the industry. I had the pleasure of working with this guy over at American Outdoor Brands. We worked on some brands like Lockdown, Caldwell, and he's a super, super talented individual when it comes to the visual arts, but he's also got an amazing nonprofit that he works with. So I want to give a warm welcome to my friend, Cameron Cushman. Hi, Cam.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How are you, Cam?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got back from about a month's worth of travel, so kind of figuring out the schedule again with home life with 4 kids and a wife and all that stuff. My wife's working now too, so that creates even more of a challenge for when I go on these work trips for, a month at a time or so.
I know I was filling Dustin in on how busy your life is with 4 kids, awesome wife, crazy job, also your nonprofit. I mean, I don't know how you do it all, but you do it pretty well. So
yeah. So I mean, to just start out, Cam, if you wouldn't mind just kind of maybe telling people what would be on the front page of your resume. What do you do? Kind of how you got there, and then we could go a little more in depth into each one of those things. But give us that book jacket blurb bio if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So Cameron Cushman, I'm like 30 something years old, 33 or so. So I got into the creative field kind of right out of high school, did photography for a few years. And then one day I was like, you know what, I need to do something a little bit more exciting. And I felt the desire to join the military. So joined the Army. And, I went and did my ASVAB and all that stuff and basically told them, hey, the only thing I want to do is infantry. So just put that down as what I want to do. And they tried talking me out of it. All my recruiters were not infantry, like combat MOS guys. So they were trying to get me to go do something like that, but not my thing. And so did 6 years in the Army, 4 years at Fort Wainwright, Alaska. 12 months out of there was spent in Afghanistan, Zabul province. So in the Kalat City area. And then when I got back, shortly after, PCS to Fort Hood, Texas, which if you've been to Fort Hood, it's not the greatest place on earth. Definitely not a good military base. But I fell in love with Texas. And so kind of towards the end, I had some health issues, and there's really no way for me to make that a short story. So we won't go too much into that. But basically had 2 hernias in my upper stomach, which is causing a whole mess of problems. And that ended up paralyzing my stomach. I had a surgery that paralyzed the stomach due to a surgeon cutting a nerve that she wasn't supposed to. And so obviously the military at that point was like, well, you're no use to us anymore. So time to skedaddle. And so medically retired. And kind of my last few months, as I was transitioning out, I decided to I was still shooting content through my time in the Army, but I decided to learn the film side of things. So moved more into the video world. And then when I got out, I moved back to Vero Beach, Florida, which is where I'm from. And just kind of started doing a lot more filmmaking, more in the fishing space. Kind of when I got out, I separated myself completely from anything military related, just kind of was over that. And so kind of this little hatred towards the military, I guess, after the surgeon kind of botched my whole system up. But I found this like healing power in the outdoors, and ended up producing a fishing show, got involved with my nonprofit after their first trip. So I've been involved with the Iron Freedom Foundation since our second trip. And then COVID hit, and before the industry knew what was going to happen, the outdoor industry had boomed, but it hadn't yet. And so the show that I was producing for the Outdoor Channel was nixed for the next season. And so I was off to look for more work. And it was kind of my first time looking for full-time work, coming from the freelance side of things as a creative. And I couldn't find work anywhere. And somebody messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, I work with this company called American Outdoor Brands, and we'd like to talk to you about bringing you on. And I said, all right, let's jump on a call. We jumped on a call, and he said, we're located in Missouri. And I laughed and said,
as most people do when you say you're thinking about going to Missouri.
For sure. I laughed. I said, well, I'm not really sure how I feel about Missouri. And so, long story short, obviously I did show up to Missouri. And I actually started on the fishing side of things. And I saw
and then we brought him to the dark side.
Yeah, I got pulled over. Basically, I saw that side of it's always referred to as that side of the wall. And
we have a wall at American Outdoor Brands.
There is a physical wall there.
There is,
but there is definitely a wall. And so I moved to the marksman side. So mostly because they hadn't had anybody in. I'm guessing I think it was almost a year since Nick had been there. And so I was like, hey, listen, I can jump over there. That's too easy. And I know it'll be easier to find somebody to replace me because there's a heck lot more creatives in the outdoor fishing, space than there is in the firearm space. And so I moved over to the marksman lane and now, kind of been running with Caldwell, Wheeler, Tipton, and Frankfurt Arsenal. And then I'm doing a lot of work still with Crimson Trace and Lockdown, especially now that we're down a guy on that side. So I'm kind of running all of them over there.
Yeah. Very good.
Crazy. It's just, it's so funny. I love hearing Cam's story. Cam could probably have made that story last our whole podcast because he does have some of the best life stories. So if you ever meet Cam, ask him some questions about his life and he'll definitely entertain.
Yeah.
But thank you for the condensed version.
We could stay for like 6. Yeah. We could stay for like 7 or 8 hours if we really wanted. I'll have to change batteries out a few times, but
marathon style.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Most interesting man alive, really.
So one thing that I'm just, a little intrigued about with what you do on the content production side, because I think, those of us sitting around this table, around this computer, the three of us know, and anybody watching or listening that works in this space knows that, content is king. And
good content,
not just our industry, but in everybody's industry.
Absolutely.
If you have any sort of digital presence at all or broadcast presence at all. And a lot of people don't realize, what it takes to produce it, to curate it, to put it out there. And, it's kind of a hurdle. And I know that this could be said about multiple industries, but I always go by, the rule of 3 of you could either have it quick, cheap, or excellent, pick 2. You can't have all 3 at the same time. And that's why, even here, we do make a lot of stuff in-house, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't. On the content side, there's certain things that at the end of the day, me and Emily, we got to keep the social feeds and the website going and making packaging and helping with branding and doing all that sort of stuff. So we can't be, out on like a month-long shoot and doing all that sort of stuff. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that's also a pay to play. I mean, you got to have the gear. Not only do you have to have the talented people to do it, but you got to have the gear. You got to have the place. You got to have the scenery. You got to have the tools, to do the job. So I'm just, curious, for the audience members that are interested in this side of, the firearms or the outdoors or the sportsman type industry, what did you kind of cut your teeth on especially when you were in the military and coming out, about really starting to get yourself known and make make a portfolio? What were some of the projects that you were doing? What were some of the, ups and downs in that? Just kind of how did you cut your teeth on the professional side of it?
No, it's super funny. It's such it's a very easy and a very hard industry to get into, and especially to make money. And now, especially with what's going on with this pandemic thing, talent is key. But at the same time, you need to make sure that you're getting out in front of people. And I would say, like, if we're going to direct it, kind of to the firearms industry, that may be one of the hardest industries to get into as a creative, because you're basically immediately going to be shadow banned by every social media platform at this point in time. If you're posting anything super heavy firearms related, you're just digging yourself a grave. My personal page, I've made a few firearms posts or in my stories, and I just found out I've known that I kind of gone in and out of shadow bans, but somebody the other day said they hadn't seen any of my posts in about 8 months, which is insane. But kind of how I really got started, and kind of how I was able to progress through various roles from, just starting out and doing the stuff that everybody does when they start out, like clothing lines and shoe, startup shoes and sandals companies, like doing stuff like that is kind of where I started. And weddings. Always weddings. Those everybody. If you say you haven't filmed a wedding, you're a liar.
Every photographer I know, I think, has filmed at least one wedding.
For sure, and I mean, it's a great way to make money to pay to play, because you have to make like what's called a spec, like spec reels, and it's basically like you're making an advertisement for somebody that's not hiring you, but that's who you want to work for. And so, like, say you're a guy that wants to do work for, Ferrari, you go and rent a Ferrari, and then you film a bunch of stuff with it in a day, and then you make a spec ad, and then you post that everywhere in hopes that the more you build that portfolio, that an actual agency is going to see you and then say, oh, dang, this guy makes some sick car stuff. And you invested in yourself. So like investing in yourself is huge, which we did a lot of. But if we're going to me, and what kind of got me, I would say all of my work was a trip that a film called Chasing Natives, me and my buddy Marcos. Marcos said hi, by the way.
Shout out to Marcos. Oh man, he's awesome. Hi, Marcos. I hope you're listening.
Great dude. But me and him did a trip across the country and back. So it was like 7,999 miles when we pulled back in my driveway, but we did a trip across the country, fly fishing for native trout. And we targeted 10 species on the trip. And we made this short film called Chasing Natives. And that film, I contribute to all of my work since then. So basically that film got me my next trip, which was this big project to Alaska, filming and photographing stuff for this lodge. And then that got me the TV show. And then the TV show got me, a lot of other things. And there was obviously more projects in there as well. And then the TV show was obviously a huge selling point for any kind of position, like, with American Outdoor Brands, like, oh, this guy produced the TV show for the Outdoor Channel. So, you don't need to go crazy with investing in gear, but you definitely need like decent gear. Don't waste your time with school. Some people may argue that one. I did school for a little bit for filmmaking. I didn't learn a single thing, because I was ahead of the curve. And so, in school, you're always waiting on the slowest person to begin with, no matter what it is. If you're in a math class, whoever the slowest learner is, you're on their schedule. And so I was shooting on my own while they were only shooting for assignments. And so I left school. Invest in your business before you invest in school if you're trying to become a creative in the filmmaking or photography space. But, get a decent little gear, get a prime lens, watch a lot of YouTube. YouTube is like the world's best, like knowledge-based library there is. I mean, period. I learned how to ride a motorcycle on YouTube in 2007.
Yeah.
So,
before Google owned it. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that I think is really interesting on the creative side, regardless of industry, is like you were saying, you know, having those specs, having that reel, having that portfolio, because you're right. There are certain jobs that you absolutely have to go to school, and not that going to school would hurt you in the creative way unless you let it hurt you. But you also you have to be the type of person that's like, if I know I need to learn something, I need to be a self-starter here. Like, I need to go and learn it, and I need to go and try it. You know, you need to just do it. And sometimes it does mean, like you said, like one job led you to the next one, because it is like a stair step. And I had to do something similar when I did some like radio work. And I remember when I would be working with different stations, they would give me like a rando list of sponsors. And I would have to like write copy and cut fake commercials for these companies that I don't know anything, you know what I mean? Like, they're not actually paying me yet. I don't know anything about them. And, you know, it's like, was my goal to write and produce a commercial about a roofing company? No,
I don't know. Maybe I don't know your dreams.
Yeah. But you kind of got to build it up. And also too, I think you hit a major thing that, sometimes people are surprised to hear from us of the shadow banning on social and what you can and can't do to promote. You know, like, a lot of people don't really wrap their heads around the fact, like, like, if you sell guns on your website, they're not going to let you run a Google ad. Like, that's just not happening. They're not going to let you run a Facebook ad. Today we had, and it's probably going to happen when I say it now. Today we did a joke video, like just like a kind of like a little satire, mean tweets video for Faxon. And I said the word quarantine, and on Facebook, boop, you know, learn more about COVID vaccine stations in your area.
And I mean, we're getting posts taken down a lot as well. Just like, not even, you know, a lot of, like, if you guys follow us on Instagram, we have what we call white posts, and a lot of times they highlight different products we have available, and Instagram will take them down pretty regularly, saying that we're, you know, trying to sell like illegal goods. And I always fight them, and they almost always get put back up. But just, you know, we do in this industry, you're exactly right, we have a lot more obstacles right now. So when people finally do get to your page some way or another, the content has to be good enough for them to hit follow, or they'll never see you again.
Yeah.
So that's
and
absolutely.
Even when they hit follow, they still might not see you again. So do your best.
Even then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, if you guys, I mean, if anyone follows, you know, Caldwell Shooting Supplies, that's a lot of Cam's work, as well as Crimson Trace. And, you know, you'll see some really awesome videos that maybe you wouldn't have seen before. But we love working with those guys. But Cam has definitely shown that he's one of the most talented visual people I've ever met in this industry. And I get to work with a lot of really talented visual designers and photographers. So, you know, Cam, we'll kind of switch gears a little bit, but Cam is doing some of this awesome work with a totally different industry entirely. Not really an industry. You spoke about it a little bit before. You have the Iron Freedom Foundation, and that is your nonprofit. So, and you're the Chief Marketing Officer, correct?
Chief Marketing Officer, yes, ma'am.
There it is,
Chief.
the CMO. All right.
Yeah,
well,
the CMO.
Give us the skinny on that. Just, you know, fill us in. We really wanted to tell our followers more about this awesome foundation and just kind of give them a little more insight as to what you're doing with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the Iron Freedom Foundation, it's a, 501c3 nonprofit. Our headquarters are in Midland, Odessa area of Texas. So in the oil country of Texas. And our founder, Will Cannon, he basically kind of went through the whole ringer, Army, Cav Scout, loser. No offense to all the Cav Scout guys out there, but infantry gotta give you a hard time. So one of my greatest friends now, but deployed two or three times active duty, got out, did the contracting thing, came back, lost friends both in the civilian sector of that contracting and then in the military. Got back, ended up finding out he had cancer like 2 months later. and, went through the ringer there with chemo. And so he was like, man, he found this healing power one day when he went fly fishing on this river. And he's like, man, I need to get out here more. I got to share this with other veterans. I got to show these guys this. I got to bring them out here. And so he volunteered his time with a bunch of other nonprofits. And kind of what he was seeing was that, like, we're super grateful that there's a billion nonprofits out there because we can't reach everybody. I'll say that first off. But he felt that it just wasn't enough. And so that's where the idea of the Iron Freedom Foundation came about. So kind of what separates us from all the other nonprofits out there, at least a lot of the nonprofits, is that at the end of the trip, all the veterans and first responders that we deal with get to go home with all the equipment. So we provide them, like, for example, our fly fishing programs, we provide them with the tents, the backpacks, the fly rods, the fly reels, the flies, every single thing that they would need to once they've gone through our program, which is anywhere from 3 to 7 days, that they can go back home and then recreate that experience and those memories on their own. They're not like, what do I do here? Because a lot of nonprofits, you use the gear while you're there, and then the nonprofit takes it back for the next roundabout, which definitely that they're able to effectively help more people. And because we, do such small groups and we're giving the gear, we're 99% of every dollar goes back to the veterans. We're all volunteer based. It costs us a lot more money for every trip because we're buying, all this gear for each veteran. And that's anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 to outfit just one veteran. And so, giving them the tools, they now can go out and recreate it without having to jump on Google, or a lot of people may not want to reach back out to us like, hey, I know you taught me all this stuff, but what do I buy? And so we eliminate that altogether and give them all the gear. So they're able to go back out and do it again. And we have the kayak program. We just did our very first couples program, which I was kind of against at when it was being talked about. But now, if I could do everyone like that, the importance of how the spouses got to see the veterans in like this different type of state of mind and truly see how the outdoors have this healing power on the veterans was super powerful to see the spouses. And that was one of my that was one of my favorites. Yeah. Finding Peace. I believe that's what it's called. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm forgetting the names of the films I've done, but Finding Peace. If you watch that, you can see it's super powerful. It's a really short film. It's only 3 minutes long. And
we can insert some footage from that right now. Really?
Yeah. There's some playing right back there in the background.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and I'd love to
set it up.
Yeah, don't worry, Dustin will get it in post.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely roll. We'll roll some of that
Everyone
footage.
Always makes it harder for you.
Yeah.
We'll roll some of that footage for everybody to listen, and
it'll drop now.
It'll drop now.
Press the buttons here and here.
We could even put it in the podcast.
Yeah, we can.
So you don't want to.
But yeah, I mean, so that's something that I think, echoes home with a lot of the people who follow Faxon as a brand. And obviously we talked a little bit before the show, but, our sister company, the company we were born from, does a lot of work for the Department of Defense. It's a main part of their business. And having that affinity for veterans, and also I think it's amazing that you and the founder have literally treaded that same path as a lot of those people that you're working with and helping. Because now, granted, I didn't serve, but I've had many close friends that have, and family members that have. And I think there's something to be said about what it's like after you get out. And I mean, you see all this stuff on the news about, there's X number of homeless veterans, there's X number of veterans that are dealing with mental health issues and all that kind of stuff. And how do you just reacclimate? How do you reprogram yourself to have a regular civilian life? And I think a huge part of that is having, okay, what's like my time? like what is my release? Where do I, recharge, rekindle myself?
Where do you find
recalibrate?
peace?
Yeah.
It's like you said, finding peace,
That's such a huge thing. And I mean, especially with, the era of, mental health awareness, I still feel that, veterans get overshadowed in that because not everybody could identify with it. Not everybody knows what it's like, to be
Right.
active duty, enlisted, overseas, in combat, and what it does to you. And fortunately for me, on the creative side, I've gotten to interview and also shoot videos for veterans and do that sort of those types of profiles and things. And I'm never not amazed at the stories, because you think you think you've watched enough news, you think you've seen enough movies to understand what's going on. But when it's a real person that you're face to face with and really digging into with, the experiences and what it could do to you mentally, physically, emotionally, is just, it's really overwhelming, to somebody who hasn't experienced it.
Yeah, and when you talk about the face to face, I mean, that's what your kind of style is with your films, Cam, that I've seen, is you're just sitting down out on one of your trips and you're just interviewing these veterans, especially, that couples trip. Some of those videos are really powerful watching, husband and wife sitting there talking about his time in the service and how it affected him coming back. And I think it's something, people like us, no matter how much we're, exposed to it, it can be really difficult for us to understand. And then your videos just have a way of connecting us to that emotion. That's so incredible. And I think, it's tough for us to understand what you guys have been through. So I think by telling those stories, you're helping kind of everyone understand a little bit better.
No, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's been an absolute privilege of mine to be able to share some of these stories. And I filmed a bunch that, that may never see the light of day. I film a lot more than what the films release. We never force the veterans to sit down on camera. And so, some of them, they'll say, hey, I'll sit down, and then they'll text me later on, hey, could you not use that film? And I'm never gonna, force somebody to sit in the chair. I'm never gonna force somebody to, be in the film. So, but every single person that we've had on these trips, their story is different, and they're the same and they're different in a way. And even myself, who's experienced it, and, I've got my own issues. It's still it's hard, as you were saying, it's hard to kind of understand what, some of these guys are going through. Or even for myself, one of my, good buddies, I talk to him all the time, and he's just been in a really bad place, and I just can't figure out, what it is that we need to do for him. And unfortunately, a lot of this goes back to that transitional time between getting out of the military into civilian life. The military does an absolutely horrible job of it. You're basically once you declare that you're getting out of the military is going to make it known that you are useless now, and you're a dirtbag, and this, that, and that. There is some good leadership out there that will discourage that, but that is just the mentality of it. And I can't say that I mean, I definitely was involved in that kind of culture as well. Especially in the infantry culture. It's kind of its own thing. But how the transitional process is just terrible. And I think that's a problem with, all first responders now, and with military. So definitely trying to figure out how to better that. And then, on our end, how we can help more people, through our program. But we've got a 100-person waiting list right now, a little bit more. And we have people that will email us hey, just remove me from the list. You guys aren't helping me. And that's so horrible to hear. And for us to hear that, we're man, we let us try to find you somewhere to go, come out fishing with us or something. We'll fly to you. But unfortunately,
you want to help out. You want to help everyone. I totally.
We just don't have the dollars to do it. And so, my wife says that my plate is beyond full already. And I volunteered my time to help out now another nonprofit who's kind of going to partner up with us in some stuff. So they do what we do, but on the hunting side. So shout out to Crimson Trace for providing all the scopes for Four Season Fighters. That's their nonprofit.
Awesome.
Zach Ames, he's based out of Washington. And so he's the one
he
in
was
the
on
film,
he was on the trip.
Yes. Yep. And he has his own film, Ebb and Flow. So him and his wife had that 6-minute long film, but he has a nonprofit, same mission, but through hunting. And so he's just probably one of the greatest guys on earth, salt of the earth. And Jose, one of his board members, triple amputee. And triple amputee. And this guy just shot a deer with his teeth the other day. So one arm.
Wow.
And then draws the bow back with his teeth. Talk about an absolute legend. He surrounds himself with amazing people. And that guy's the most positive dude in the world. Surfs. He's a surfer. And he's involved in the, all the different surf programs that they have for, paraplegics and everything like that. So we're going to be helping them out a little bit. We're going to do a joint trip coming up here soon. That's top secret, but that's going to be really cool.
Yeah. Yay. And I can't stress enough, I think especially right now, people are watching the news. They've seen what happened, in Kabul, and I think people see it and they're like, oh, that's really sad. And then they're so quick to forget about it. And, there's so many awesome nonprofits out there, guys, that you can work with or help or donate to, or even just sharing their posts and getting their names known. There's so many ways to help people like you guys and help nonprofits like you guys. Like you said, there's so many different nonprofits, and of course we love yours. If we had to pick a favorite, we might pick Iron Freedom Foundation, but there's so many nonprofits out there that you guys can help out, get involved with, and don't let a news story just kind of come one in year and out the other. You guys need our help 24/7. So.
And what are some of the, and we'll put links to all this in the show notes, faxonfirearms.com/blog, click on episode 57. But just for the people listening in the car or while they're running chores or going to sleep, I guess, I don't know, one of those.
I don't know when you guys listen to our podcast. I don't know.
Where are some of the places that people can find out more about you and Iron Freedom?
Yep. So ironfreedom.org, pretty simple. And then our Instagram is the Iron Freedom Foundation. And that's the same for LinkedIn and Facebook. And then for me, Cameron Cush is my Instagram as well as my website. So just my name and then half of my last name, a little bit more than half, but ironfreedom.org. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very good. So we'll have links to all of that in the show notes this week. And while you're there, we're also going to be giving away a couple little treats from our friends at Lockdown, who Cameron and Emily know well. We're going to be giving away one of the Lockdown Puck smart security devices, as well as a keyed trigger lock from Lockdown. So you could go to faxonfirearms.com/blog, click on episode 57. You'll get all the links to everything Cameron mentioned today, as well as the entry link to the giveaway as well. So Cameron, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Cam.
We encourage all of our listeners and watchers to check out Iron Freedom, and we'll get you some links to some of those short films as well. So Cameron, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you guys. It was a privilege, Dustin, Emily. I really appreciate you guys reaching out, and we'll definitely have to stay in touch more, and I'll have to get out there to you guys. Let me say that again. That was terrible. I'm sorry. I said some weird dual word thing. Retake that one. Sorry.
Rewind it back.
Idiot. Yeah. I don't even know what I was saying. What a moron. Thanks, guys. It was a blast being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. We're definitely going to stay in touch, and I'm definitely going to have to come out your way. So
yeah, come on out to the old Midwestern tri-state up here. It's better than Missouri and Cincinnati.
Well,
Missouri's not too bad, but it's growing on me.
Good. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you on episode 58.
All right.
Hi, and welcome.
The Faxon blog